Among the most dramatic evidence that Earth's climate is changing and that planet Earth is warming up is the retreat and disappearance of mountain glaciers. Since the early 1900s, many glaciers around the world have been rapidly melting. Human activity is said to be at the root of this phenomenon. An increase in carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere has raised the temperature. A new report has said that melting mountain glaciers pose a growing flood risk to at least 15 million people around the world. Communities in Asia face the biggest danger. Runoff from melting glaciers often gathers in shallow lakes that are held back by rocks and other debris. The risk comes when a lake overfills, bursting through its natural barrier and then sending torrents of water rushing down the valleys. Now, for the first time, scientists have assessed as to how many people globally are at risk from these glacial lake floods. Now, more than half of the vulnerable populations reportedly live in places such as India, Pakistan, China and Peru. The danger is the highest when a large number of people live near a glacial lake. A glacial lake outburst floods are projected to worsen due to the warming climate. Collectively, the world's glaciers lost about 332 gigatons of ice a year between the years 2006 till 2016. Since 1990, the number and volume of glacial lakes worldwide has each increased by about 50%. In the high mountains of Asia, some 9 million people live near more than 2,000 glacial lakes. Compared with mountain glaciers in the Alps and North America, Asia's icy places are not as well monitored. Satellite observations show that glaciers in the Himalayan region are in a state of overall decline. And according to a study from 1990 till 2015, glacier coverage in the Himalayas shrank by almost about 11%. And during the same time period, Himalayan glacial lakes increased by about 9% in number and 14% in terms of area and volume. The more than 200 lakes now pose a very high hazard to the Himalayan communities. All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of how serious is the problem of this glacial melt and what does it mean for the communities who in fact live in these areas surrounding glacial lakes, we're being joined by Jos Timmerman, who's joining us live from the Netherlands. Jos is a senior climate and water expert at Water Frames. Mr. Timmerman, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us here on WION. The question that I want to ask you is a very obvious one. The fact that glaciers are melting due to climate change is well established, but what sort of an impact do you think this is likely to have on communities who live in the neighborhood of these glacial lakes?
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. Well, the issue is that in general, the glacial lakes, they're formed by a glacier that pushes in front of it a large volume of debris, mud, stones, and so there's a sort of natural dam forming. And when the ice is melting, you can see the tension building up, and at a certain point the dam can break, and then a huge amount of water and ice and debris is coming down, and so everything that's downstream of this lake can be affected by the huge impact of all this. The volume of water, but also the stones, the ice, the debris. So it's a huge impact if you're in the line of that stream that's coming down.
Now, a lot of these countries, especially in parts of Asia, such as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they depend on rivers that essentially are fed from the glacier melt off. With glaciers retreating on these mountains, does it mean that we are looking at a period over the course of the next decades where the amount of water that is available in nations that depend on rivers that essentially are fed by glacier melt-off to be very badly impacted?
Yes, that's one of the issues that we're facing, that the glaciers are retreating, so there's less ice and less snow in the mountains as a sort of resource, and where it used to be like the snow melt and the ice melt would bring slowly the water down, the amount of water coming down will be less, and well, it differs in different regions of the world, but it is expected that well, at least in say by 2050, a lot of rivers who have been originally a glacier-fed river will turn into like a rain-fed river, so there could be periods of drought as well.
Right. Absolutely indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Timmerman, for joining us and getting us all those insights there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.